All right, Fresh. Let's go to our next game here. It's the Iron Bowl. Oh boy, howdy! After Auburn, I got something to say about you here in a moment here. But Alabama, they're 10-1 on the year. Their only loss early week 2 to Texas. They're 7-0 in the conference. They've run a murderer's row from what most people would say. Auburn 6-5 somehow. I don't know. You lost to New Mexico State. You paid them 1.8 million to come in and whoop your tails all up and down the plains. This game, Alabama is a 14 and a half point favorite in this game. I think that number's too low. I think this may be one of the ugliest Iron Bowls we ever see. Fresh, I'll turn it over to you, buddy. What you got for the Iron Bowl here?
I mean, this is a 6-5 team that's not been pretty. I mean, they've been competitive in some football games. They played tough versus Georgia. They played tough versus Ole Miss, both at home, by the way. But on the road, they've been junk. And then you just lose to New Mexico State. You didn't just lose. You, you had it dropped on you. You had it dropped on you hard. You got stomped by double digits. And actually, it's no resolve, no resiliency, no wake up moment. That's on coaching. You should be getting your guys prepared more for these cupcake games late in the season. You should be keeping your team focused as opposed to just sort of milking and walking yourself through it. I'd be like, hey guys, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, focus, focus, focus. We've got to get better. We're not a 10-win football team here at Auburn. We can't afford to be losing these football games. And you go out there and you lay an egg. Were you looking that much ahead to play in Alabama? Do you want to piss off Nick Saban? You're that excited about playing a pissed off Nick Saban football team who technically still has a chance to win an SEC and play in a playoff, and you're skipping ahead and not focusing on the task at hand. That's a program situation. That's not a team. That is a top down, not being focused on the task at hand. What is in front of you? And they paid the price for it. Maybe that's a wake up call for this week, but that just shows that there's definitely players on this team who aren't even talking to the rest of each other and saying, "Hey guys, we need to man up and get this done." It's New Mexico State. Let's buckle it up at halftime and go out and take care of business. Nobody was being accountable for each other. Coaches weren't coaching right. They haven't developed all these players yet. It's a statement. And yeah, Auburn's having an amazing run right now on the recruiting trail, and I have a pretty good feeling that's all very heavily NIL involved, and those kids want to get paydays when they arrive on the planes. But at some point, you got to start seeing, is there player development there? Are this team actually going to win? Money's money, but I'd rather win and to be developed to go to the NFL, develop to win SEC championships, than be a 6-6 football team and get a high NIL check. Recruits, take a think about that. Auburn, they have a great environment. The fans do really cool things. Flying a war eagle and all of that, and rolling the trees. It's a cool thing. They do a bunch of neat little stuff. But Cam Newton's not walking through that door, folks. Nick Marshall's not walking through that door. Michael Dwyer's not walking through that door. This team is not that same team. Yes, this is the 10-year anniversary of the Kick Six and the Miracle. The Gus Malzahn led football team and almost went and won a national championship. Crazy things happen to Jordan-Hare, especially at night in this game. But this team, I don't think it has the depth in the roster to compete with what is about to come through in the Crimson Tide. You're going to need a lot more than just a prayer in this case. You're going to need prayers, kick sixes, lucky charms, rabbit's feet, whatever else, genies in a bottle you can find to have a chance to compete. If the way that you played last week is going to show up for versus Alabama, because right now, Tommy Rees and Jalen Milroe have figured out what to do on offense. They might not have a top 10 offense, but they figured out what they do best, and that's Milroe making his throws when he has to, McClellan running the ball, and Milroe running the football. That dude, he's become a dual threat quarterback, using his feet, making things happen in the passing game because of that. It's not a traditional offense they've run there under Nick Saban. It's not a pro style. It's not even a spread. It is a Milroe make it happen for us offense. Offensive line, you kind of lose some of those, issues where they might have had some pass protection problems or some run blocking problems. With him back there and using his legs and using athletic ability and letting the receivers sort of make things happen on their own, they've adapted and they've grown. And if you give them any inch, they're going to take it. If I'm Auburn and defensively, you got to corral him, force him to throw. Do not let Milroe run. If I have to put 5 defensive linemen on the field just to make sure I build a little arch around him and keep him in the containment. That's what I have to do. But you also have to tackle in the open field. You cannot let him run around for days because he will run for touchdowns left and right and north and south. He did it versus LSU. He had to put up a big game versus Tennessee. He is an athletic guy who's going to make things happen. You've got to contain him, or he's going to get away and he's going to blow you all out of the building. Um, where's your offensive identity, Hugh Freeze? You came here, you're supposed to be an offensive genius. You did stuff at Liberty. I have not seen anything from Auburn's offense that tells me that you've gotten any organization right now, what you have in that roster to put forward and put points on the board. Yeah, you're going to give a buffer. You're going to give that 3-year window we always talk about. But like we also just said with Florida, those 3-year windows in the past are shrinking. It is what you're actually shown. Sam Pittman at Arkansas in the first couple of years showed a development of resurgence. He had a down year this year, bad offensive coordinator, but the team still kept fighting for him, and the team actually wanted him around. But you saw progress the previous 3 years. I haven't seen progress at Florida, and right now I'm not seeing progress at Auburn. Recruiting's one thing, but those kids still could decommit. Until they're signed and in your program, I don't trust any of those recruiting rankings. What are you doing on the field to develop a program? I don't see anything on the offensive line. I'm not seeing a consistent running game. I'm not seeing a consistent passing game. Where's this offensive identity you're bringing here to brought here to do? You beat Alabama and Nick Saban when you're at Ole Miss twice. You need to pull out all that magic and all those strings in this ball game to keep the crowd in it for 4 quarters, much less win this football game. You've got to find ways to coach this team better, hold your team accountable, and go get the job done. You're going to have some sort of mystic in the first half. Your players are going to come out there, jacked up, fired up. The crowd's going to be ready to go for the Iron Bowl. Nothing better than beating a top 10 team at home. But your team still has to show up the entire 4 quarters. You've got to coach the 4 quarters to win, not coach scared. If a player's on your depth chart and he sucks, you don't have to play him. You can bench him. It's your job on the line eventually. And you've got to get the right kids out there playing. If that means it's a freshman over a senior, you've got to figure that out. And you've got to do it for this ball game. Beating Alabama might save your season. Yeah, you're going to a bowl, but beating Alabama will save your season. And actually, it might buy you an extra year of job security just by winning this football game. That's what rivalry games, especially this one, mean to people. If you can win these games, you've got to coach your best game of your career to win this football game. Because you know what? This roster is not the Ole Miss rosters that you had when you beat them. You have a depleted roster. You've got to actually coach in this football game. I know it's asking a lot of the head coach, but you have to coach in this football game to beat Alabama. They are beatable, but they are a very good football team, and they're getting better every single week. That Alabama defense is an Alabama defense. They have grown. They've gotten better. They tackle, and they attack. You've got to make them pursue in situations. You've got to take advantage of deficiencies and score when you can. Field goals do not win you this football game. Touchdowns do. In the end, I think Nick Saban has his team focused for Alabama. They are ready to rock. This is a blip on the radar to them. They're going to go in here. They're going to squash Auburn, and they're going to get their focuses ready for Atlanta to take on the Dogs in the SEC championship game. Auburn, if you get blown out, this might actually be a big, big, big step back for this program and a major scar on the face for Gus Malzahn. For Hugh Freeze, excuse me. But you have got to at least have this team show up. If Auburn shows up and shows some hope, that's positive for the future. But if they get curb stomped and they get destroyed by Alabama, might want to start reflecting who you hired and where this program is going in the next few years, because it could get ugly from here.
Fresh, I told you a couple of weeks ago, Auburn is not a good football team. They aren't. There's no, folks, if you're an Auburn fan, you want to tell me that why Auburn is a good football team in the comment section, by all means, go ahead and tell me what it is. They're 6-5. They lost to New Mexico State. We paid $1.8 million to come into your home stadium, into Jordan Air, and for them to beat you, and beat you very badly. Pay that man. Pay that man his money. That's all I could think about was John Malkovich from Rounders. Alabama is going to do absolutely boat race Auburn in this game. And I think the 14.5 is very, very low. Jaden Milroe, yeah, was he a flawed quarterback to start the year? Absolutely. Has the kid gotten exponentially better as the year has gone on? Absolutely. Is this Crimson Tide defense licking its chops to get after Peyton Thorne and whoever wants to decide to take snaps under center for Auburn? Absolutely. This game could get very ugly and very, very fast. I think this game is over by at the end of the first quarter. I think Alabama's up maybe 21-0 at the end of the first quarter if they get the ball 3 times, and they'll be able to punch it in on that. Auburn, this is gut check time. Like this is a test. This is a true test of your manhood, because either you're going to roll over and just take it on the chin for 4 quarters, get your teeth kicked in, go to some meaningless bowl game, and have everyone just make fun of you for the entire spring. Those unless you're paying me big money, I ain't a recruit. And they, paying recruits NIL, big NIL numbers up front works out really well. Please see Texas A&M. That worked out fantastic for Jimbo. Hugh Freeze, take a note on that one. Alabama, they have everything in front of them. Again, you're going to see, the field start to thin out. Now, Alabama's got one major problem that they got to deal with, and that's the Texas problem. Having that loss to Texas, and especially if Texas plays in the Big 12 title game. Now, the playoff committee has never left out the SEC champion. There is a world, though. Florida State wins out, they're in. They're undefeated. Ohio State or Michigan wins out, they're in. They're undefeated. Washington wins out, they're in. They're undefeated. And then if Texas wins the Big 12 title game, you got an argument there. They got the head-to-head win. And if Alabama beats Georgia and Atlanta, then all of a sudden the SEC is left out of the college football playoff, which, again, all of us would be kind of flabbergasted by it. But what I just laid out to you isn't out of the realm of possibility. Like, it is a interesting thing. Alabama's got some work to do, and they know that they have to go into this game, because while me and you will sit there and say that Auburn is a crappy team and not a good university and they're not a good football program right now, the casual fan and what most people that watch college football will say, but still a rivalry game. It still means a lot when you go into your opponent's stadium and hang a 40 burger on them, like I think Alabama's going to do. Nick Saban knows that. We know that. He can't use the argument, well, we would have been favored in every game against all the college football playoff field. No, you got to go in and make a statement game. I think Alabama is very motivated. I think this Alabama team is really a lot better than where they were at the start of the season. I think they're a very dangerous team, and they have a lot of things in front of them. This is going to get ugly, quick, fast, and hurry, fresh. It's going to give us a lot, and I think this game is going to give us a lot to talk about next week when we preview the SEC title game.
Oh, definitely. I think Alabama, Nick Saban has this team hungry. A lot of young guys playing a lot of, early and often. I think that just shows that they recruit the right kids. They recruit kids who want to work and want to play football, and they play the right way. And I think even Saban decided, you know what, I'm going to put my statement and my stamp on this team a little bit more this year. I'm going to have to be more involved in these meetings than I've had in the past, because obviously early on, Reese and that entire offense, they weren't clicking, and the defense kind of had some holes. He came in there, he laid the law down. It's like, this is who I am. This is how we are going to be. We're going to do it this way, and they've responded, and they're seeing the rewards right now, just going in and taking care of business week after week after week.
Absolutely.